All right, it's 11:01 and let's dive into this. I'm Jagrat Jariwala. I go by JJ. I'm gonna be the moderator for this event. I am a senior project manager at LANGAN Engineering with their geotechnical group. I based out of New Jersey, but get involved with projects all over the US and recently in India as well. I have got introduced to IMS committee through folks at Langan, and it's I have experience working with subsurface data, including boring logs, CPTs, and whatnot, and surficial data such as LiDAR and SAR, and so on. So I'm really pumped about today's presentation. So with that, wanted to go through these PDH related inquiries. I think we get those a lot. So folks who are paid registrants, they will get PDH. A web link and instructions will be sent via email in terms of how to file those. And if you have any questions, um, you can reach out to events@dfi.org. Yep. Some housekeeping type items. So during webinars, all the attendees will be on mute. And question and answer session, the plan is to have that at the end of the webinar. And if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to put it in the chat box, and we can take it from there. We can answer those. We can get Singh and Jesse to answer those at the end. So without further ado, let's get the speakers introduced. So we have with us Jesse and Singh today. Jesse is the assistant geotechnical engineer administrator at Louisiana DOT. He, there you go. He earned his bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from Louisiana State University. He currently leads a geotechnical group which is involved with geotechnical design, construction support, foundation testing, specification writing, and through contract management. Jesse is also very active in other professional organizations and serves in various committees at ASHTO, PDCA, and TRP. He has recently co-authored a couple of articles at ASCE, Geostrata magazine, and DFI, Deep Foundation magazines, talking about different data management practices. The other speaker is Singh. Singh is a geotechnical engineer working out of Atlanta, Georgia, works for Geosyntec. Singh completed his Ph.D. from University of Texas at Austin and is currently heavily involved with data solutions type projects and help engineers manage, visualize, and interpret complex subsurface data for various infrastructure and construction projects. He has experience working with boring logs, CPT data, geophysical surveys, LiDARs, and instrumentation results from other relevant data sources. He's currently he has experience working on bridge and highway type design uh, with Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. Their data management and visualization and interpretation aspects. So with that, I will pass it along to them to take it forward.
Thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you, JJ, for the introduction. And today, we want to talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing at LADOTD to try to modernize our use of geotechnical data. I think all of us can agree that geotech design and construction have always relied upon data, but our traditional workflows can take hours or even days of manual effort, sometimes to yield valuable insights. And on top of that, the pace of construction projects often keeps us from properly managing our inspection data, so it makes it difficult to bring that over to use in decision making and troubleshooting sometimes. And so based on some of those challenges, we are currently using one of our larger projects, which is the LA1 Relocated project, to develop a software prototype that lets us visualize soil borings, CPTs, and driven pile data all within the same system. This is, we don't have a formal development roadmap for this. This is something that Xin Peng and I have been developing just kind of by just kicking ideas and kicking emails back and forth. So just want to give you guys some ideas of maybe some of the stuff that you can develop if you have a solid data management platform already in place. And in a way, we were looking to kind of integrate some ideas from the building information management world and bring that over into the geotechnical side of things. So using LA1 as our case study, we'd like to show a few ways that data-driven approaches can influence the way we design and construct deep foundations. And so first I want to take a step back and mention that in order to develop these types of tools, we need to manage our data properly. And so when an application is given a data file or it connects to a database, it needs to know what to expect on the other end. So proper data management is really the key to unlocking the things that we're going to present later in this presentation. And so with that being said, we have to recognize that the geotechnical industry is generating more types of data than ever before, from lab testing, CPT soundings, LiDAR, geophysical, real-time instrumentation, and so on. And while these data sets alone are valuable, integrating them with each other is still a major hurdle due to three kind of key challenges. One of those is data silos, and this represents critical data sets that are stored in separate systems and makes it hard to share information across teams or across projects. Then we look at format incompatibility, where just different software platforms are using different standards. So even when we have data, we can't directly interchangeable, or they're not directly interchangeable amongst software packages. And then finally, we have limited integration, where bringing together multiple sources of data can be complex and unreliable, which limits our ability to analyze trends or compare design and construction data, for example, which are coming from kind of two different worlds. And so one of our goals here is to try to overcome some of these limitations so we can combine relevant data sets to make better engineering decisions during design and construction. So as we've seen, integrating diverse geotechnical data is a major challenge for us as geotechnical engineers. And one of the big reasons for this is we've seen a rapid shift in our software landscape recently in terms of data management. So for years, our industry relied on Git as the dominant standard for geotechnical boring data management and reporting as well. However, as we all know at this point, there's a planned sunsetting of the Git software. And so we've kind of entered a transition period of uncertainty and really a need to adapt quickly to decide where we're all going to go as geotechnical engineers. And today we're in a multi-vendor ecosystem where several strong alternatives have emerged, and they all have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. So some of the challenges associated with this kind of paradigm shift are gonna be, staff are going to need to retrain to use new tools. New workflows may need to be created from scratch for these new platforms. A big one for me is that data will be exposed to possible errors due to increased data migration and conversion efforts to get things from an old system to a new system. And users are going to need to be sure that they're adopting data management standards to, make sure they don't start or bring over old bad habits or start new bad habits, and that their data are going to remain reliable and usable across multiple systems. So successfully navigating this transition is essential for overcoming these integration barriers and for making the most of our geotechnical data in the years ahead. So as we try to kind of navigate this shift in the data landscape, One of the risks we need to be aware of is a heavy reliance upon any single software solution. This is just my personal opinion, but we want to make sure that we don't get locked onto a single vendor. Um, one reason for this is just the life cycle of our geotechnical data assets versus our software. So if you consider the life of a bridge or the life of a pavement structure versus that of a piece of software, we can pretty quickly see that our software solutions can turn over several times over the life of a structure. And another reason, is to minimize disruptions amongst our consultants. As a state agency, if we can avoid forcing any of our consultants to use one specific piece of software, we prefer to do that. And we also think it's advantageous to create modular systems where specialty vendors can create tools to access and analyze data without having to develop the data storage and the data management system itself. And so the bottom line here is that we want our data to be standardized so that it can outlast the software that we're using. And to protect our investments and to ensure continuity, we need to develop strategies that keep geotechnical data accessible and resilient no matter how the technology evolves. So ultimately, that's the backbone of what we're trying to build here, something that can consume standardized data, and we're trying to standardize the data on the back end so that we can develop tools like we're going to present to consume the data on the front end.
So just like Jesse mentioned, so recognizing all those risks of the software dependency and the importance of long-term data accessibility. So Louisiana DOTD has adopted a proactive data-first strategy. So that focuses on workflows over tools and stays software-friendly rather than software-dependent. So all of these start with a strong data stance and quality requirements, just like Jesse mentioned. So the data remains consistent no matter what tools are used. So for example, about a decade ago, so Louisiana DOTD with LTRC standardized both digital data in GAINT and also PDF boring log reports. So which make it very easy for all the consultants to deliver data in a very consistent format. And building on that foundation, Louisiana DOTD also has been working to standardize database schemas using their standardized centralized database for storing and managing soil borings, lab testing results, CBD soundings, and deep foundation datasets. So currently, we are also collaborating to develop our standardized workflows that work smoothly across a multi-platform ecosystem using APIs to integrate with any modern database. So this kind of approach gives Louisiana DOTD the flexibility to adopt any emerging technologies and develop purpose-built features as needs evolve without disrupting existing workflows. So this soft inclusive approach ensures that tools can connect to a centralized database and contribute specialized functionality and evolve independently while keeping operations running smoothly. So ultimately, this strategy protects DOTD's data investment, streamlines operations, and ensure long-term adaptability. So the data collected today will continue to deliver value well in the future. So building on that data-first strategy, so we just talk about it. So in the past few years, we are working on research projects with LTRC and also Louisiana DOTD to develop a web-based platform to support engineering analysis that meets the latest design specification from Federal Highway and AASHTO. So because it's built on a standardized formats and APIs, it can easily handle thousands of soil borings and CBD soundings and deep foundation datasets, making huge geotech datasets actually very usable. So with just a web browser, engineers can search, visualize, and analyze all these datasets consistently and quickly. And through API connections, including the direct connection to Open Ground Cloud, so this platform plugs into any modern geotechnical database systems without forcing you to switch tools. So what's importantly here is that we're building every feature from the ground up to align with Louisiana DOTD's specific workflows and requirements. And this approach lets engineering teams work faster, and take advantages of new tools as they come out, and then keep their data valuable long term, regardless of what happens with the soft vendors down the road. So next, here I'm going to show a short demo video to showcase how to load large amount of geotechnical data into this tailored web-based platform developed for Louisiana DOTD for quick analysis for multiple projects. So by simply click a toggle switch at the top right of the screen, the platform connects directly to the Open Ground Cloud database and automatically retrieve all the necessary data for design analysis. And in this example, we loaded data from over 4,000 locations, including soil boring, CPTs, test and monitor files, and instrumentations. So along all those, along with more than 26,000 lithology layers and 7,000 lab testing results samples from different DOTDs within just a few minutes. And with another button click, all the locations are displayed in an interactive map. So allow engineers to quickly navigate across the entire Louisiana for data interpretation and visualization. So here, engineers can quickly click on any boring location, which can bring up to the corresponding PDF logs, which generate dynamically in seconds. And things here, we manage all the digital data, not just PDF logs, which means that we not only can view the PDF logs, we can also perform some advanced data analytics and interactive visualization for any projects across the entire state. So for example, we can instantly navigate to the LA1 projects, which we will talk more in a few minutes in the Southeast Louisiana. And here we can quickly select over 100 soil borings, deep soil borings, and instantly generate soil profiles with some statistics following the latest Ph.D and FHWA design specifications. And we can also quickly and indirectly generate color-coded 2D cross-section views for detailed subsurface visualization. And if we want to shift to another location within the entire states, we can quickly navigate, let's say, for example, to the western Louisiana. And here we can select all the soil borings from another highway crossing over a river and quickly visualize the entire cross-section within seconds. And here in this cross-section here, we see some color-coded soil lithology layers. So here, all the black colors represent some organic clays, and green shades colors represents lean fats or sealed clays, and yellow shades represent sand materials, and red shades represent sealed materials. And here we can clearly and instantly see the subsurface variabilities within this 2D cross-section view, and everything just can be visualized within seconds. So this platform we have been working with Louisiana DOTD and IOTLC is transforming how geotechnical data is managed and used across Louisiana. So engineers now can access a statewide searchable database for all geotechnical investigations from all the DOT projects, make it very easy to find and reuse valuable data collected over the years. So beyond what we covered today, so like I previously mentioned in the previous video, so the platform also includes some advanced design and visualization tools that let users indirectly explore and identify stratigraphy and perform advanced engineering design analysis. And all these tools are fully aligned with the AASHTO and Louisiana DOTD standards, ensuring seamless compliance in design workflows. And most importantly, the platform also enables data reuse across projects. So the effort invested in one project helps build a stronger foundation for future work statewide. So by integrating all these capabilities, Louisiana DOTD is ensuring that its geotechnical data stays accessible, actionable, and valuable, improving efficiency and decision-making across all future projects.
Okay, so over the next few slides, I want to talk a little bit about a project we're using as the case study to develop additional features for the platform. So we didn't spend a lot of time getting into all the statistical analysis. That would be a whole other presentation. But we're trying to take this forward into the construction realm, and so this is a great project to kind of use as a platform for that. So this is the LA1 relocated project. It's located in Lafourche Parish in coastal Louisiana. It's been in progress for about 2 decades. Right when I graduated from college, they threw me on an airboat to get samples for this project, and I've been working on it ever since. And it's a prime example of a data-intensive project with pretty complex geotechnical challenges. Some of the data we've acquired over the course of the project includes over 500 CPT soundings, nearly 200 soil borings, 25 pile load tests, over 3 years of embankment monitoring data, and dynamic monitoring and drive data for well over 1,000 pile bents. Phase 1 of the project was designed and constructed using a non-managed data approach. That was done about 15 years ago, if not longer. And then between phases 1 and 2, LADOTD completed some initiatives along with LTRC that allowed us to begin managing our geotechnical data. And so phase 2 of the LA1 project is currently under construction, and we now have a really nice set of managed data that's allowing us to prototype the tools that we want to demonstrate here. So overall, phases 1 and 2 of this project are comprised of about 20 miles of elevated highway between Golden Meadow to the north and Port Fourchon to the south. The highway supports 16% of the nation's domestic crude oil production, about 20% of the nation's seafood production, and also serves as a hurricane evacuation route. And the original at-grade highway was susceptible for storm surge flooding, and so we decided to elevate the entire route until it reached the protection levee at Golden Meadow, so it could actually serve those purposes again. So as I mentioned, phase 1 of the project was completed using conventional design and inspection, and we didn't have a centralized way to manage our geotech data. And just a background, we began the geotechnical design in 2003 and did some pre-construction load testing in 2004. We constructed phase 1, segment B, which consisted of embankments and connector ramps between 2006 and 2009. We simultaneously constructed phase 1, segment C, which was a high-level bridge over Bayou Lafourche. And then about halfway through phase 1B, we began construction on phase 1A, which was an end-on construction of elevated highway beginning at the southern end of the project. And then so a little bit later in 2018, we began construction on phase 2E, which was a slight modification to the north connector. And it basically widened the road there, making the turn easier, and gave us a little bit of extra room to begin phase 2. And so finally in 2022, we began construction on phase 2, segments A through D, which are again, mostly end-on construction that resembles phase 1A with larger piles and higher loads. So the primary source of geotech data for the project are the soil borings and CPTs we performed from airboat rigs. And this screen shows the original alignment for the project, which existed around 2003 when we started the design and the exploration program. And so this, the green dots show our original geotechnical investigation that we made between 2003 and 2004. And right before phase 1A was constructed, we got a few additional CPT soundings to accommodate a slight alignment shift for the phase 1A project. And then sometime later, you can see from the blue line back towards the north or on the left side of the screen, the phase 2 alignment shifted back to the west. And so basically we had to redo our boring program for phase 2. And it's also much denser than the original phase 1 layout. And this was done to try to place one CPT or one boring at each substructure approximately. And so here you can see a zoomed in view of the original and final phase 2 phase 2 alignments, which kind of shows that updated boring spacing that we used on phase 2. It's a lot denser, and we have a lot more data to go along with. So here's something that I think is a really good example that kind of compares how we used to do things in the past versus how we're able to tackle those same things today. Some of the things that Xing was showing before, he was generating these types of profiles in just seconds. But this is a subsurface stratigraphy based on the CPTs that we made along phase 2. So it was 360 some odd CPTs. And due to the density of the data used in these soil behavior type classifications, each one of these pages took me about a day to generate in Ghent back in 2011. And the tools we're building today can basically generate these types of plots in just seconds. So this leads us to our most immediate need regarding this decision-making platform, which is the ability to quickly see what's happening below the surface at a given location. And we also need to quickly access various properties such as shear strength, moisture content, N value, tip resistance, and so on. And although the project is mainly linear, we also want to be able to visualize the data in 3D so that we can be about the pile and as well as along the entire alignment. So this platform's capabilities allow us to do things like identify lateral changes in layer thicknesses, detect anomalies, and trace specific strata along the entire project alignment. And so now I'll leave it to Xin again to demonstrate how this platform enables the user to do these kinds of things. And as we go through the rest of the slides, keep in mind that the soil boring, CPT, and test pile data are all stored in our open ground database. And so we're basically trying to illustrate the fact that we can build these tools that pull data out of our existing databases and do what we want, and basically leave our data alone and doesn't, as Xing said, we don't interrupt our workflows. We're building this prototype to do all the other advanced analytics and presentation work.
Thank you, Jesse. So next, I will demonstrate a few example videos just to showcase our 3D BIM prototype platform we have been working on recently as part of the bigger ecosystem to support the deep foundation design and construction. So in this example, we selected about 77 deep soil borings and over 100 deep CPTs to visualize in this 3D BIM environment. So at the top of the screen, you can see all the IDs from the selected soil borings and CPTs. And the left side of the view displays a 3D control toolbox. The right-hand side view shows a color legend that dynamically updates based on the specific data sets we are analyzing in this 3D view. So first, let's hide the CPT locations, about 100 CPTs. And then focus on the deep soil borings. We can quickly rotate the plan view into a 3D view to indirectly manipulate the data sets. So here we see color-coded lithology layers for all 77 deep soil borings. Again, the black or dark brown shades represents organic clays, and green shades represents laying fat or silt clays, and yellow shades represent sand materials, and the red color represents steel materials. So user can hover over any lithology layers in the 3D environment to check the top bottom elevations of each lithology layer and also check the detailed soil lithology descriptions within seconds. And additionally, based on the soil borings selected from this map, the platform also can dynamically interpolate the soil lithology layers from the nearby soil borings to create a continuous 3D lithology volume, further supporting the evaluation of the subsurface conditions. And in this example, we can clearly see two major sand layers that could potentially impact the durability of the piles. So the first major sand layers is about at elevation minus 30 feet to minus 50 feet with a trend of decreasing thickness from north to south or right to left in this view. And then another sand layer is located below about elevation minus 200 feet. And in this 3D environments, we can perform dynamic 3D dynamic 3D interpolation not only for soil boring data. We can also do it for CPT data and deep foundation data sets. So even for soil borings, so we we can dynamically interpolate not just for the lithology layer as you see here, but also we can do interpolations for any soil properties from all the lab testing samples. So this allows us to check the data consistency for site preservation, and which in turn helps engineers enhance their confidence when they make foundation design decisions. For example, we can dynamically interpolate the moist content from all the soil samples within these deep sea soil borings. And in this view, the warmer colors represent high moist content, and the colder colors represent low moist content. As we can see, so they have some high moist content values, which are over 80% at very shallow depths, which kind of consistent with the shallow organic materials we observed previously in the 3D lithology profile. And we also see some low moist content values around 20% at very deep depths. And similarly, we can quickly change to different parameters to some other properties like the bug density or the undrained shear strength. So in this case, we can provide a very comprehensive analysis, which provides a more accurate and detailed understanding of the subsurface conditions and variabilities, ultimately lead to better informed design and construction decisions. So in addition to the soil boring data, we can also seamlessly integrate the CPT data into these 3 environments along with the soil boring data within seconds. So here we can just bring those 100 deep CPTs up in this 3D environments, and to further enhance our confidence in understanding the subsurface conditions. And in this view, so we display the color-coded lithology layers from the soil borings, and also color-coded cone tip resistance from all those CPTs. And here again, warmer colors represents high cone tip resistance, and cold colors represents comparatively low cone tip resistance. And here we can easily identify the elevations with high cone tip resistance, how they aligned with the sand materials observed in the soil lithology columns from the soil borings. And in addition to that, we can also dynamically change the CPT columns to color codes with any other CPT parameters for 3D visualizations for more comprehensive evaluation.
Okay. So in addition to just visualizing boring and CPT data, we also wanted this platform to help us make construction-related decisions in real time. And so it was important to develop features where we could access test pile data, as well as construction observations such as pile driving logs, and basically create a feedback loop where the designer can use field observations to confirm design assumptions and to use that to improve future design decisions. So this project is so big that we didn't issue all the pile order lengths in one go. We are having to stay in front of the end on construction, but we frequently reissue new pile order links as the construction progresses. And so we're trying to feed the field observations back into what we're doing on the engineering side to make sure that we're making good decisions. So the big takeaway here, though, is that our goal was to include both geotechnical data from borings and CPTs, as well as construction data in the same 3D space, and to present that data in an intuitive way for faster decision making. So since 2004, we've installed and tested 25 test piles at various locations along the LA1 alignment. We worked with the open ground developers originally when we adopted the software to modify our database so that it could accommodate our existing pile load test database alongside our soil boring and CPT data. And so this includes data such as pile restrikes, elapsed time, PDA and cap wap resistances, load test data. So we've got load versus deflection data in there from static load tests, pile dimensions, pile locations, pile elevations, even what hammer was used to drive each pile. And so this means that the tools that we are developing this open ground via API also have access to our load test data. Additionally, for the LA1 project, we required that all pile driving logs be typed into a spreadsheet and submitted along with the handwritten logs. And so as we've standardized that input form, we now have an easy way to integrate our pile driving information into this prototype as well. So in terms of design, there's a lot of challenges on this project that necessitate rapid access to field and design data so we can review and accept piles in a timely manner. So again, I've mentioned that the project is end-on construction. So if we slow down the pile driving operation at the front of the train, we slow down the entire project. And so as the design engineers, we need to be able to synthesize the data coming out of quickly and make quick decisions. Secondly, the geotechnical conditions themselves are quite difficult. This site consists primarily of a normally consolidated clay with some intermittent sand layers, as you saw in that previous video demo. And the clays have relatively low shear strength. And so if we hang the piles up a few feet too high, they're not going to get capacity in side friction alone. And so we risk missing our target resistance. And however, because there's a specialized structural design on the piles, we're limited as to how much pile we can actually cut off. And so at many bents, the design loads have us tipping piles just barely into a sand layer that becomes very dense very quickly, which presents a refusal situation with just a few feet of penetration into the layer. So in other words, we need to hit the sand to get our required resistance, but we can't drive very far into it. And so this gives us a very narrow window to set our pile tips. And as a result, we often find ourselves plotting drive log data against CPT tip resistance against our design curves to make sure we're staying on the right track in terms of balancing the design and the drivability. This plot on the screen right now is a real design curve from the project, and many of them look like this. So right where we start to develop that end bearing, is where the loads are putting us, and we can't drive too far into that. So it's an extremely challenging condition, and we agonize over every single pile bent where we release pile lengths. And on top of that, this is all even more tricky due to the fact that these dense sands at the bottom of the CPTs tend to vary in elevation. So we have to be really careful in terms of how we account for conditions in between CPT soundings, away from CPT soundings, laterally within the pile bent itself. And so this was really the driving force behind the development of the tools we're trying to demonstrate today. We needed a way to get our CPT soundings and pile driving data into the same space repeatedly and reliably for comparison and quick decision making. So, although things tend to make sense when our tip resistances and our driving resistances agree, what do we do when they don't? So consider a situation where, you have visually these things start to not match. And so is the problem in the pile resistance in terms of the design side? Is it in the elevation data? Is it in the soil boring data? Questions like that also make this platform very useful. And so on the next few slides that Xing's going to present are going to demonstrate how we can kind of use this tool to troubleshoot inconsistencies between our inspection observations and our geotechnical investigation data. And this is a real situation that project that we're about to present.
So before getting to the challenges, the case study, so first I'm going to showcase how, because previously we just showed video demos of integrating the CPT data and soil-borne data. And here I'm going to showcase how the managed pile driving data can be quickly accessed and visualized and analyzed within these the environments. As Jesse mentioned, so DOTD and LTC has been spending a lot of effort in the past probably 1 or 2 decades to standardize and developing the database schemas in their centralized database. So in this video, so here we select about 10 test piles And similarly, we can quickly rotate the plan view. Let's see. We have 10, we select 10 test files, and we can rotate the plan view into the 3D view and to indirectly manipulate the test file data. So here we're showing color-coded power driving blow counts from the drive logs, as Jesse mentioned, so for all these test files. So again, warmer colors represents high blow counts, and cold color indicates low blow counts. So in addition to show the trends for the blow counts, engineers can also visualize any other test file data within this 3D environment using the drop-down selector from the toolbox at the left-hand side. So additionally, user can also simply click any of these 3D test file columns to check all the detailed information relevant to that test files, which includes all the detailed power configuration, including the design load, power length, and hammer type, hammer weight, and the performance from the all different test power events, including some power setup interpretation from both dynamic and static tests. And as you can see here, so this specific power has 8 dynamic or cap-lab events and 1 static test power event. And engineers can also plot, analyze all these load deflection data or power setup curves using some interactive charts. And user can access all this information within the 3D environments for any test file within seconds. So to follow up what Jesse just mentioned, so in the next example, I'm going to demonstrate how the platform helps the project team to identify and evaluate some data inconsistencies that contributed to the construction challenges within a specific power driving section. So in this example, we selected about 11 CPD soundings covering a section that includes 15 bridge bands with about 88 pows. And these CPD columns are color-coded by cone tip resistance, with purple color indicating low resistance and yellow color indicating high cone tip resistance. And within this 3D environment, the platform can dynamically interpolate the CPD data into a continuous 3D volume, similarly to what we previously see for the soil lithology layers from soil borings, as you can see here. And here, because CPD has much dense higher data density than soil borings, so here shows the capability of the platform to quickly interpolate large amount of data sets within in a very efficient manner. And this 3D visualization shows some consistent patterns between the interpolated 3D volume and the individual CPD columns, providing a clear, continuous view of the subsurface variability across the entire section. So next, I'm going to show is, let's hide the CPD data first, and then visualize the pile column. Let me go back to that. And let's see the pile columns within the same area. So in this view, so we have the color-coded power driving blow counts for all the 88 piles for those 11 bands. So here, warmer color represents high blow counts, and cooler color indicates low blow counts. And as we can see here, and also like Jesse mentions, so we have very challenging subsurface condition here. So we saw some localized zones showing 0 blow counts above elevation minus 60 feet. And we also see some hotspots, high blow counts between elevation minus 80 or minus 100 feet, along with some consistently high blow counts at very deep levels around 140 feet and 143 feet. So to validate all these observations from the power driving blow counts, we can also incorporate the nearby soil boring data into this 3D model. So in this section, 3 soil borings are available within this area. So 1 at the north end or the right-hand side, and 2 at the south end or the left-hand side of the pile group. And these 3D lithology columns with silt layers showing in red and sand layers showing in yellow displays some good consistency about the elevation ranges for the high blow count zones from the color-coded pile columns. So since the CPD data are available across the entire section, as we saw from the previous videos, and also like Jesse mentioned, so the project team used the CPD soundings as the basis for the pile design. So now let's introduce the interpolated 3D volumes to directly compare with the pile driving datasets in this example. So here on the as we can see from here, so on the north side or the right-hand side, so areas with high contact resistance showing in yellow aligns well with the high blow count zone showing in red from the pile driving logs. So indicating a good agreement between the data used for, from the geotechnic site investigation and the pile driving performance data. However, so if we moving from the center area to cover the south or the left-hand sides, we start to see some discrepancies. So the high blow count zones, particularly at deeper elevations, occurred within the purple regions, represents low cone-tip resistance. And we also see the high cone-tip resistant layers from the CPD data located about 5 to 10 feet lower than the high blow count elevations. And because the original pile design relied on the CPD datasets, and this mismatch led to challenges during the pile installation process, especially early refusal and the needs for pile cutoff before reaching the high resistant layers indicated by the CPD profiles. So once the inconsistency was identified during the construction, the project team conducted a detailed review and determined, the top elevations from several CPTs in the southern regions likely being reported incorrectly by the contractor. So the team then corrected all those elevations, updated the effect CPTs, and then we reloaded the revised data into these 3D environments. So after interpolating the correct CPT data, the updated 3D visualization now shows much better alignments between the CPT soundings, pile driving load counts, and the soil boring datasets. So as this example illustrates, by integrating multiple geotechnical data and construction datasets into a single 3D BIM environment, engineers can visually detect inconsistency, validate subsurface interpretations, and make informed data-driven decisions. And this integrated approach enhances the reliability of deep foundation design and helps reduce the construction risks by identifying potential issues in the design and planning stages or early construction stages.
So although we are still in the midst of building this platform and kicking ideas around, I think we can pretty easily demonstrate some immediate benefits associated with managing our data and then developing a 3D BIM type environment for this case study. And one of the benefits we see is just faster insights. So, the data interpretation becomes quicker and a little bit more confident by eliminating paper documents and scattered charts and federated system. Because the system already knows where to find and what to do with things like elevations, tip resistances, pile driving resistances, and other properties. We don't have to create new spreadsheets from scratch every time we want to compare data from different sources like construction and design. I think another benefit here is just clearer communication, which makes the subsurface conditions easier to understand. And so we believe that this could hold great value for other stakeholders, such as bridge designers and contractors, who may be more willing to either collaborate or sign off on different changes if they're provided a better understanding of the relationships between our foundation performance and our geotechnical conditions. And finally, we think we can make smarter decisions by linking geotech data with construction observations. I mean, that's always been true, but having it in a system like this makes all that just so much more faster and integrated. And this even extends to the QA of our data, which was demonstrated on the previous slides. So what had actually happened here was, um, this problem wasn't caught during design, and the solution really wasn't obvious until we had CPT data, driving data, and then the base map, the satellite data all in the same system. And at that point, it pretty much became evident that these CPTs were actually performed from a truck when we originally thought that they were originally scoped to be performed in water. And obviously that truck couldn't have gotten in the water, and therefore the top elevations of the CPTs would have been significantly higher than those reported based on the bottom of the channel. So that was kind of the explanation of why our CPTs didn't line up with our driving observations, and why we had to cut some piles off there because we had just misplaced the sand layer. So before we wrap up, I want to briefly mention some of the ideas we're kicking around for future development. Most of the LA1 project consists of spliced pre-stressed concrete piles. And so due to concerns about stresses as well as achieving pile resistance, we've elected to perform dynamic monitoring on one pile per bent, which works out to something like 20% testing or something like that. And you can see from the table on the right just how much PDA data we've acquired over the course of the project. Phase 2 of the project alone will have over 500 piles tested with PDA by the time we're done. And although our open ground database doesn't yet handle PDA data at this time, we've discussed ways to upload and plot tabular PDA data within this system. And so similar to the way we're using pile driving blow counts, we think plotting things like stresses, pile damage, hammer energy, and hammer efficiency in the same system could be very valuable for troubleshooting and things like that. So, imagine a project where piles start hitting refusal blow counts inexplicably. If we have PDA in this type of system, the engineer could very quickly evaluate things like hammer energy and stroke right alongside all the boring data to decide whether all the driving observations are making sense. And although we briefly touched on the fact that we can pull our pile restrike data from the database now, we think by separating the analysis tool from the storage database, we can build even more ambitious workflows to evaluate our data. So, for example, if we can pull pile resistance versus time elapsed since driving, which Shane very, very briefly showed a pile setup curve that was pulled directly out of our database. So we can build setup curves and we can estimate pile setup factors, and therefore we could project pile resistance associated with pile setup. And so it would then be possible to visually evaluate which piles are expected to achieve required nominal resistances within an acceptable time frame, for example. And we're currently having to do that on this LA1 project using 2 or 3 separate spreadsheets right now, and without the benefit of the visual element. So that's one thing that we'd eventually like to incorporate, is kind of bringing that into the spatial BIM type environment. And then finally, we've also developed a prototype for visualizing some settlement cell data spatially as well as temporally. So we believe that other instrumentation such as SAAs and clinometers and piezometers could be incorporated into a system like this as well.
So, like Jesse said, so I think, well, we hope our today's presentation encouraged you to think about how geotechnical data integrates into your workflows. So, like Jesse mentioned, so yeah, the database management and how you bring the value from all those database management efforts into your real products. That could be smart collaboration efforts between different teams. And the real opportunity lies in treating your data as more than just files in folders, or it needs to be organized information that actually flows through the organization for the products. So when DOTD take this approach, the benefits as engineers spend less time hunting for information and more time doing the actual engineering work. And project teams can compare options where real confidence and the knowledge in your organization become easy to find instead of trapped in someone's filing cabinets. And and but what we are talking about isn't about finding the perfect software today, right? So it's about building the foundation that lets you take the advantage of all the data management efforts you have been working on in the past years with the new tools we're developing right now and in the future. So by focusing on the good data practice now, Louisiana DOTD is setting itself up to use whatever technologies come next, handling future challenges and deliver better results on every project.
So in closing, I do want to reiterate that this is just a prototype. It's not ready for public consumption. So if you've seen any weirdness in some of the videos, we're still testing and building this thing. But I really think this is a great example for anyone who might still be wondering, why do I even care about geotechnical data management? And I feel like if we standardize our data, then we can standardize the tools that we need to consume, visualize, and analyze the data. And so with the APIs that are built into some of the new generation of data management software, I think we're a lot closer as a geotechnical industry to creating tools like the one demonstrated here that can just plug into multiple users' databases and generate repeatable results. That standardization is going to help us build tools that are not just a one-off type of deal, I think. Also, I want to make sure, the moral of the story time is, to make sure people understand that the data management process and the development of these visualization and analysis apps, I think it can absolutely be a separate thing. So if we identify the management systems that fit our needs, I think geotechnical engineers are capable of handling the data management processes themselves. So I would say, we don't want to let the wow factor of all the 3D tools scare us as geotechnical engineers from starting the data management process, because all the wow tools, those can be built by other people that have different skill sets. And so this is why data, just data management standards and APIs, which again are application programming interfaces, why these interoperabilities are important is they allow us to build these modular systems where, the subject matter experts can generally stay in their own lane. And that's all I've got. I want to thank Xing for helping present this, or basically presenting the whole thing. And I want to thank Gavin with LTRC also, who had a very large part in the underlying data management that is allowing to build these tools today. So thanks, guys, and thanks everybody for your attention. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys. I think I can talk for every attendee at this point in time. It was very impressive. Although, Jesse, you mentioned that we should not be overwhelmed by the 3D figures. I think I was, and positively so, I should add. And we have one question lined up already, and for other attendees, feel free to type up your questions in the question and answer chat. And honestly, this was my question as well, and I'll read it. This comes from Jared Martinez. In the LA1 example, is OpenGround serving as the only database that custom tool uses, or are there multiple databases being used? Is there a way to filter duplicates, adjust data in the tool, and display error margins? That's the entire question.
So I'll do the easy answer, and I'll let Xin Peng answer the hard part. But so OpenGround is not the only database here. As we got more ambitious with some of our needs, we decided that there are certain things that we don't have in our OpenGround environment. So all of the soil boring data, including all of the lab test data, all the lithology data, and all of the cone penetrometer data, and all of the test pile data are in there. However, the one thing that is lacking is the pile driving log. And so years ago, when we started to make our wish list for modifying our OpenGround environment, That wasn't really on my radar. It should have been because the pile driving logs are very important, but I was more worried about getting load test data in there. So I will say that, so those three things are the main constituents of our database, but we are using a separate database for the as intermediate storage for those pile driving logs. And I will let Xing answer the remainder of that question.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Yeah, just to follow up, Jesse mentioned, so sometimes, so like Open Grounds and a lot of other geotechnical database management software, right? So they're kind of off the share tool. They can do some certain customization, but they have limited capabilities to customize their schemas. So it's perfectly fine for that. So because because they already did the 80% of the work, what we need to do is just pull the 80% of the data. But in certain situations, based on different project needs, we may need to add some additional data sets. So in those cases, so we can quickly implement another simple temporary database to store those data sets, the unique data sets. And then we can, because we are using APIs and standardized the portals, so we can easily bring, that's one purpose of our platforms. So we are kind of easily pull all the data from different databases into a single place to do things. So then our effort just to quickly develop another schema for, but another thing, good thing Jesse mentioned is in his presentation for even for power driving data, for the power driving logs, right? So they standardized, the Louisiana DOTD standardized all the data entry spreadsheets. So they already have a standardized template for all the contractors to input the digital data in the spreadsheets. So what we need to do is just quickly write a script and pull all the data from, let's say, hundreds of spreadsheets and store them in a standardized database. And then we pull all the data for the power driving logs along with Open Ground database into the system to do data manipulation and visualizations. So, and I think the other part of the question would be is there a way to filter duplicates or just data in the tool? Yes. Since we pull all the data from different databases, we can tweak the data. So we have two different ways to tweak the data or up the data. But I think the most robust way, let's say for the Open Ground database, so the best way would be tweak all the data from the Open Ground database portal, right? So because that's the single source of data. So I think Louisiana DOT may have they have standardized workflows how to input the data, how to upload the data. So they have a standardized protocol for that. So once they update all those data, since we're using API, all the newly updated data will sync in real time into our system. So whenever they pull the data, they update any of the existing data in the Open Ground database, we just click button to sync all the data. Then our system will show all the latest data in our platform. And adjust data, yeah, and display error margins. So I'm not sure what does error margin means in this case.
Jared, if you want to clarify if there is something specific you meant by error margin, feel free. In the meantime, did I get this right? It seems like all the data was entered through or managed through Open Ground except for file installation log. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Gotcha. We have
And I think,
one. Go ahead.
I think that's related to the other question, but I'll let you read that one.
So the next one was how much time was consumed in entering the data? How was data entered?
That's actually a really good question. It's a very that's a whole other presentation most likely, but to kind of make a long story short, I mean, as we mentioned, we've been working on our data management processes for 2 decades now, and all of this is built upon that. So, I think in 2011, sometime around then, we standardized our Gantt database schema. And so we told all of our consultants, you shall clone all your databases. If you do work for us, you shall clone them from this schema and you shall submit them in this format. Because as everyone that's used Git knows, it's easy to add a column here and a field there, and um, then you don't have matching schema anymore, and it's very difficult to import data whenever all the files look different. So when we standardized that, we started. Now, at the time we did that, we did not have a backend database to put all this stuff. So all we knew was that we were going to be receiving files that were standardized, and that was a good enough start for us. And fast forward to 2017, I think, when we adopted Wholebase, which was the predecessor to OpenGround. We worked with some consultants to essentially build a conversion tool to say, I'm going to take this standardized Git file and create it into something that could be consumed into OpenGround. So it's a very difficult question to answer, because I mean, at some point when these projects were originally done, when the file originated, somebody was sitting in a lab somewhere, or some engineer was reading lab sheets, keying all the lab data in. The CPT stuff is pretty much automatically imported and processed with a third-party tool. We use Rapid CPT from Data Forensics to do that. But and then of course, as we receive files from our consultants, we go through this conversion process. But if they're properly entered, one of these old Git files in the proper format can be imported into our OpenGround database in 10 minutes. I mean, it's really not a big deal. We we have to do a lot of troubleshooting for the guys that go rogue and don't enter everything right. But it's there's absolutely that initial human effort where somebody's got to key all this stuff in, but to get it into this system, because we've managed the data over the past couple of decades, is more or less instantaneous. So that even extends to, like Xin said, he could just write a script to import the drive log data, because going into the LA1 phase 2 project, I knew I was going to want to do something with the data, and I didn't want a bunch of PDFs of handwritten logs with pile grease all over them. So we basically said, we're going to pay you to go ahead and type these logs, as well as send us the handwritten ones too. And I think it's paid off. I mean, those logs can be imported immediately. So I know it's a multifaceted question to answer, but I would say, because of our practices in the past, the importing of the data into this system is fairly instantaneous.
So makes sense. Makes sense. I think we don't have any coming at this point in time. I think they'll trickle in. But curious, when the construction was actually happening, did you guys have the engineers who were inspecting it, and all of those guys were having access to this data in real time as well?
I wish, but no. So we've kind of developed this platform based on my takeaways from the construction on the project. So every time something happens, I'm like, man, I wish I could look at this a different way. That's really what led us to wanting to bring the piles into this whole operation. We very quickly touched on, and it was just one very quick 1 or 2 slides early on in the presentation, where we do some statistical analysis on the borings that can be turned around and used in static equilibrium pile design and drilled shaft design. And originally the platform was geared more towards that. It was geared more towards, can we do the statistical analysis on the data to develop, or to help us with our site characterization. And so the pile stuff came later, where we basically said, well, while we have all these borings in this system, can we throw it into a 3D space and then also bring in construction data and really make it more robust? And at some point in the future, I would love to see an inspector have access to this stuff and to be getting like the piles into the system, same day. But we're not quite there yet. So it's more of a kind of an engineering tool / prototype. But I could certainly see one day where this type of application could be on somebody's tablet because it is web-based, and we could have an inspector in the field just pulling the data up in real time. That's I think that's our ultimate goal, if not pipe dream. But we'd love to see that happen eventually.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I love the whole trial and error thing. I think that's how most innovation sort of happens. Um, love the approach there.
Yeah,
So
and
I
I
just
think
want to add, yeah,
yeah,
no,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, just to follow up what Jesse mentioned. So I think one thing I really like the closing comment Jesse mentioned. So a lot of people think about the data management thing, and they spend a lot of effort, like including Louisiana DOTD, right? For the last 20 years, they spend a lot of effort to standardize the data management effort, but that's just the first step. And the second thing we need to really think about is once we standardize all those kind of data management efforts, so what would be the best way or the best strategy for us to leverage power from all those efforts to bring the value for to the products. I think that's really what we are thinking right now, and what we are trying to do with that. And for the database management, in one of our earlier slides, we also mentioned, Jesse mentioned, so right. So after the planned sunset of gains, right now we have a lot of. I think we have several very good and strong alternatives for soil boring data management tool management, right? So I think nobody will go wrong with any of them. So, and once we pick one of them, and then people really, as the geotech engineers or project managers, we really need to think about, with all those tools, what we can do with those data to bring the value for all the products. It's just save time and to print the PDF logs, or what else, right? So, yeah.
And just to kind of add to what I was saying, we very briefly touched on the statistical site characterization side of the tool because we really wanted to focus on the BIM aspects and the pile aspects. But to kind of answer Jared's question, in terms of that module or that part of the tool, yes, we can filter outliers, and we can get error margins, or at least envelopes of standard deviations and things like that. That was not necessarily the focus of this presentation, but that is a feature of the site characterization portion. But we aren't doing those types of things with the pile driving data yet. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Do you believe there is an opportunity to take the data visualization and interpretation aspect into design and standardizing reports? I think that goes for Jesse first.
It's a good question. We've had some interest. So I'm not sure if everybody on the call is aware of DIGS, but it's DIGS is basically a data interchange format meant for geotechnical data. And the DIGS folks are making a lot of headway, and there's a lot of momentum behind DIGS in order to standardize how we exchange geotechnical data and geotechnical measurements. And Shin and I have talked in the past about, well, is there a way to standardize other things? Like, can we standardize the models that we build, or can we standardize the interpretations that we build? Because those are not the same as the data itself. Those are something that's been touched by a subject matter expert. And I don't have an answer for that question, but I think I like the question because it's something we've kicked around. It's like, can we standardize other things with, how, can we say that, there's a way to save the data within this particular interpretation and present that in a report and say, this is how I see the site. This is how I developed a specific design model. And I'm not sure if there's a way to do that or not, but it's definitely something that we've kicked around as an idea, because to me, that's potentially the next logical step of, if we're going to standardize how we send measurements and data back and forth, then certainly it seems like that would be an extension of that.
That makes sense. Should you have anything to add there?
So for this question,
Yeah.
so take the data visualization and interpretation aspect into design. So I think and standardizing reports. So for design, if I understand the question correctly, so actually we're kind of in the first platform we're working with LTRC. We're kind of standardizing workflows based on the latest AASHTO and FHWA specifications to standardize the workflows. How you going to interpret the data based on the variability of the geotechnical data sets to develop design parameter and stratigraphy to perform a design analysis. From that aspect, I think, yeah, we are taking the visualization and the interpretation aspect from one of our platform into the design process. And standardizing reports, yeah. So if I understand this correctly, yeah. So of course we can easily implement. Let's say once we standardize the workflows within the platform to perform the design analysis, we can kind of standardize what we are going to show. I think that's something we need to discuss with the owner, like the Louisiana DOTD, right? For every the geotech design reports. So what kind of following the Louisiana state standards geotechnics menu or the AASHTO menu? So what kind of information we need to provide it for the report for given projects or for bridge design projects? Then we can, within the tool, we can definitely, since we design the workflows to be compliant with the AASHTO standards and the federal highway standards, we can easily create kind of standardized formats upon the approval from the owner. Yeah, if you just think, yeah, so this is something we want to see in every bridge design projects through this kind of design workflows, then we need to see that. We can definitely print out all those things in let's say in a report as a part of the deliverable, even in a digital format or PDF format.
Yeah, I feel like it can go to the next step as well with site observation reports and NCRs, non-conformance reports, and resolution of that once folks have access to it on site. Any thoughts on that? Xin, let's start with you, I
Okay.
guess.
So can you repeat again your question?
Yeah. So just making a point here about field reports and
Yeah.
non-conformance reports and solutions to those can be easily found and documented and standardized once all the design, all of this is, all of the visualizations and whatnot is standardized.
Sure. So yeah. So you said, so if we standardize the
my understanding is it's all getting standardized now. You guys are working through the nuts and bolts right now. And once
Yep.
it is standardized, and as Jesse was mentioning, once folks on the site will have access to this, the site observation reporting and the non-conformance report resolutions
Yep.
and reporting can
Yep.
be made easier.
Yes, of course. Yeah, with all those digital tools, because we are kind of we tailor all the features right within the system, so based on the needs. So if we want to, let's say, document any further information from the fields, yeah, we can easily standardize workflows within those tools. Yeah, I'm not sure I answered the question.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and I think as long as you can turn it into a piece of data,
Yep.
and that's, I mean, honestly, that's really what we wanted to promote here, was the fact that, okay, if you manage the data, if you recognize that, you can make these observations, turn them into data, standardize the way that you store them, name them, and whatever, that you can make whatever tools you want to connect to. I mean, all these modern tools that we have are starting to provide API access and ways to basically let a programmer connect to these databases, get data out, and do their own characterization or analysis and things like that. So that's really what we wanted to promote here, is that, if we as engineers find value in certain data points, then we need to standardize that on the back end and how we're storing it, and say, this is an important thing, whatever it is. Let's keep track of that from now on. Let's store that. And then somebody can create a tool that looks for whatever we're looking for to create those nonconformance reports, whether it's a data point that says, the slurry test didn't pass, or the shaft was left open for X number of hours and shouldn't have, or whatever it is we're looking for. As long as, I think it's important that we identify it down to the atomic level in terms of data, and say that, yeah, this is something we want to store. And how do we break that out from just visual observation? How do we give it either a yes, no, or a numeric, or whatever value that we can use later? So I think that's important in identifying what do we actually care about, and that's been part of what we've been trying to do the last 20 years. But we have a long way to go with construction data. I think we're doing pretty well with geotechnical lab testing data and CPT data, but certainly, maybe the next step is how do we turn the construction observations into data points like this, and leverage that into better decision making.
Yeah.
So just to add what JJ you asked, so it's one thing coming in my mind. Yeah, so actually that's another product internally at the Geosyntec. So we're kind of developing internal tools, to support construction in events for CQA, for all those conformance and performance compliance. So we kind of standardize the workflows, developing digital tools so that people can quickly, whenever they input the data into the tool, so you will immediately know, oh, that's passed the requirement or not. So we are working on this. I think both for both digital data and also PDF data reports. Let's say we are leveraging AI, for example. So we are leveraging AI, so we can. So whenever contractors submit a secure report in PDF, we can just load the PDF and scan all the information using AI, and then find what are the compliant, what are not. But this is still internal prototype, so because we still need to have people to review all those AI-powered tools, because we need to make sure high accuracy and consistency for the reports from different labs and contractors. But that's another thing to add.
Oh, makes sense. And I think database management is the first or basis or foundation for all these new technologies that are coming in. Lovely. I think I'm looking through the questions here. Looks like that was the last one from Robal Mohammed. So I think folks, if you want to ask questions now, this is sort of your last chance. Going once, going twice, and I think we can call it. Well, thanks a lot, Rian and Jesse. Really appreciate it. Really learned a lot. And of course, blown over by the visuals and presentations and the capability now to sort of have everything up in front of you in one go. Very well presented. I think with that, I'll call it a day. Thank you both.
Thank you as
Thank
well.
you,
Appreciate
JJ.
it.
Thank you, everyone.